Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, host of the Riderflex podcast and founder and CEO of our day job recruiting firm, Riderflex. We hope you enjoy this episode. And as a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast for updates and news. Finally, if you haven't already, check out the series of books we've published on hiring, interviewing, and overall career advice titled The Riderflex Guide, available on Amazon. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Most homeowners don't have the time or expertise to properly take care of their home, which causes costly issues to arise. That's where Kira Home Maintenance comes in. We're a full-service, routine maintenance company that was developed by a certified home inspector. Each quarter, we service our clients' homes following manufacturer's recommendations to properly maintain all the necessary appliances. We provide the materials and expertise to prolong the life of your property, creating a healthy and efficient environment for your family. From top to bottom, we'll maintain and service your home. To get started, we have a property inspection to determine what needs to be maintained, and a maintenance plan is created based on your preferences. From refrigerator coils to filters, vents, and drains, we do it all, and we do it well. Contact us today for your free routine maintenance inspection, and never worry about your maintenance again.
William, welcome to the Riderflex show. Great to have you on today. Appreciate you scheduling some time for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is fun.
You're, I guess you'll call yourself a serial entrepreneur, right? Pretty much.
I mean, I guess at this point, 2 counts as serial, so sure.
Yeah, I want to ask about the pup thing for sure. I got some questions around that
Sure.
and so forth. But before we get into business, let's talk about William, the person, the human being. Give me some parents, where you grew up, siblings. Give us some history, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I grew up right here in Denver, Colorado, where I still live. I live about a mile away from where my parents live.
Really? Wow.
So
All
I'm
right.
not strayed too far from home. No. Yeah, grew up, great family, a brother and a sister. I'm the oldest, doing the Colorado thing. So lots of skiing, lots of hiking, all of that. Colorado is a great place to grow up. And I think, that initial interest in the outdoors, is part of what got me interested in just climate, to begin with. I love to ski, and skiing's not going to be a thing in a few decades if we don't figure out this climate change thing.
What'd your folks do for a living?
My dad was, he owned his own company, consulting company, and then he was a college professor. And my mom was a former teacher who became a stay-at-home full-time mom.
Okay, very good. And you went to school in Maine. Well, how'd that happen?
I did. Yeah. My parents, to their credit, figured out from very early that I was going to live in Colorado for the rest of my life. And so they're like, cool, before you decide you should live in Colorado for the rest of your life, you need to live one other place. So don't go to college in Colorado.
Okay.
So I went to Maine instead. Figured, I wanted to go to a small liberal arts school. I wanted to be close to skiing. And those were sort of my 2 qualifications. And so I ended up in Maine, had a great time. Maine is beautiful. But I missed Colorado, so I came back.
But you did get your BA from there, right? You got your
I
bachelor's.
did get my BA, yes. I mean, I stuck around for 4 years to get my BA, but then I came right back.
Yeah, for sure. And then got into the School of Mines. So obviously, if you got into the School of Mines, you had good grades. You were a good student.
Good enough.
Good enough.
Enough. Maybe not the best, but good enough.
I mean, were you, at the library every day in Maine at school, or did you loosen up a little bit? Did you have some fun?
I had a lot of fun. I did not spend a lot of time at the library. And when I did, I would often have a beer with me. No, I had a great time in college. I did enough work to be able to get into my top choice of grad school, but I was far from being the top of my class.
Okay.
And you know what? Like 15 years later, doesn't really matter, right?
Isn't that so? Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on that topic.
Yeah.
I'm curious now. In high school, though, were you straight and narrow, or a little bit of rebel in there? Did you get any fun stuff? You got any fun, like I got in trouble stories? Anything you want to confess about to the world right now on this show?
I was pretty straight and narrow when it came to like drugs and partying and all that.
Okay.
But I did, my outlet was skiing and climbing. And so I skipped senior year, especially. I think I like skipped almost an entire month of school, sort of, spaced out to go skiing anytime it snowed. So
Okay.
I wasn't, again, not quite at the top of my class in high school either. Just good enough to get into the college I wanted to go to. A college I wanted. I didn't even get into a lot of the colleges I had applied to because I wasn't that.
Okay. The photo that's on your LinkedIn profile, what mountain peak is that? What elevation is that, if you don't mind sharing?
That is the summit of Gannett Peak, which is the highest peak in Wyoming, just shy of 14,000 feet.
Is that near Jackson Hole? Where is that?
It's like it's about 80 miles southeast of Jackson Hole.
Okay.
Yeah, in the Wind River range. And yeah.
Love it. Love it. Great photo. I'm guessing you still go skiing as much as you can, I'm assuming.
I still try to go skiing as much as I can. Yes, excited for that to start. We're in October here, so it's getting pretty close.
And you look like you're still in pretty good shape. I mean, I don't see a lot of body fat on you. What do you got, like 0.2% body fat? What's going on over there?
I try to, try to stay in good shape for my age. I run a lot, I climb a lot. I play soccer. I try to just, I bike to work every day. It's better for me and better for the planet. So just try to stay in as good a shape as possible.
Very good. You have you done all the 14ers in Colorado? You probably have, huh?
I have not done all the 14ers. I've done a lot of them. I have a handful left. I'm sort of spacing them out. I'll climb all of them eventually, but I've been finding a lot more fun in climbing the 13ers instead. They're less crowded and often more challenging.
The word crowded is a topic we could also have a 45-minute show on. And speaking of Wyoming, so I don't want to go down too big of a rabbit hole here, but I live up near Loveland and Johnstown. So I live in northern Colorado. I purposely go north to Medicine Bow and the Snowy Range, not because it's necessarily more beautiful or better mountains, but there's fewer people.
Solitude, definitely. Yeah. So the 14ers have gotten pretty crowded.
Yeah, right. Totally. By the way, if you're a runner and a hiker and all that, did you happen to know the guy that went missing, that they finally, he was a pretty well-known runner, right? Just recently went missing in the mountains. They looked for him for about 30 days. Did you know that guy?
I did not know that guy.
Oh, man, what's his name? Shoot. I should have looked that up before the podcast. Yeah, I couldn't find him. I mean, there's always one or two of those a year, right? One or two a year. Somebody goes up there and
Yep, my parents are terrified that someday it'll be me, but
hey, same with me, my friend. I do not run, but I do a lot of solo camping. So I have a Jeep and I do a lot of solo camping. And then while I'm up there, I will then go out on a hike or whatever, solo, and usually not on a quote trail that there's people on. And same thing. My sons and everything are like, okay, Dad, well, if you don't come back, I guess we'll just, we'll have a little memorial for you up there. I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. I'll be, if that's the way I go out, I'm cool with it.
yeah. I mean, I'd like to not have that happen, but so at least we'll be doing something I love. So
I don't know about you, William, but for me, there is something about going solo into the mountains, no people around, the fresh air, the smells, the wilderness of it, the slight risk of it, because I guess there's if you get way up in there by yourself, there's always a little bit of risk of some kind. Like just all of that for me, man, it's almost like, I don't know how to describe it. Not like a religious experience, but it's just so refreshing for me. I will come back on a Sunday evening after being in the mountains for a few days, and gosh, I just feel so much better.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I keep going back as often as I can. And I agree. The fewer the people around me, the better. So I like to get off the beaten path as much as possible.
Do you camp as well? Do you take camp, or do you crash somewhere?
Yeah, I do camp. Actually, when I started Acclimate, I camped one night a month every month for the first 30 months straight of Acclimate.
Cool.
Like my
Cool.
so at least one night a month.
Are you as bad as me? This is the last camping question I'll ask you. Are you as bad as me? I will get up somewhere dispersed camping. Nobody around. I'll spend a couple hours finding the spot I want. And then somebody will come like kind of close. It's happened to me a few times. And I'll just be like, really? Like, really? You got to camp like right here? And that just, William, I get super annoyed by that.
Yeah, I don't love it either. I don't love it. I don't usually. I'm like too comfortable to move, but it definitely is irritating.
No
Yeah.
doubt no doubt about it. Okay. So coming out of, well, first of all, before career stuff, how about your social life now? Married, kids, partners, single? What's your story?
Girlfriend had a dog until recently. He passed away from lymphoma over the summer. But yeah, so just girlfriend for now.
Never been married? How old are you?
36.
Okay, well, you're still pretty young. You're still pretty young.
Too
All right.
busy, too busy doing the startup thing. I mean, there were 5 years of my life where I just was working and pretty
Yeah.
much not doing anything else. So
Did you ever get close? Were you ever close? Like you're serious? Like no,
not really.
not really. Okay. All right. Just curious. All right. So coming out of School of Mines, did you know you wanted to do something with the environment? Did you kind of have an idea? Like, did you know you wanted to be an entrepreneur? What were you thinking?
I did not know I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I did know I wanted to do something with the environment. So my master's degree is in hydrology, which is water sciences. I have to explain that because a lot of people think it's like plumbing. So, hydrology is directly tied to climate change, environment, all that stuff. And so I definitely wanted to be a part of that. So yeah.
Okay. You knew you wanted to do that. All right. So then you came out of school, and what happened? Now you got your master's in 2012. You just,
I got a job right away, like straight into a pretty good engineering job in Denver, office downtown, engineering consulting. So getting paid to, do engineering by different clients. And by all account, like by any standard, it was a good job. It wasn't for me, but it was a good job.
what happened? Where'd the entrepreneurial bug come from? How'd that even happen?
It came while working at that job. So I was at that job for 3 years. First year was great. And I worked really hard and tried to, be a good employee and go above and beyond and distinguish myself. And I like, as an example, in my first year, I brought in a big project for our company, which is not something you're supposed to do as a first year engineer. And so I was really trying to excel. And then at the end of that first year, they're like, cool, you did a good job. Here's a 3% raise, which is the raise that we give to everyone. Like, keep going. You're doing a good job. And I had like no concept of the word upside at that time in my life, but like that seemed really unfair. Of like, if I'm gonna bust my ass, like I'd like to get some kind of recognition or reward for it. So after that, I was pretty checked out. And I started to be pretty checked out. And I was looking at my coworkers, who had been working there for like 20 years, and their lives just felt really boring to me. Right? Of just like wake up every morning, go to work, do the exact same thing for 8 hours a day, same thing you've been doing for the last 20 years, go home, do stuff on the weekends, get 2 weeks of vacation a year. And oh, by the way, if you work there for 10 years, you might get a third week of vacation. Hooray. And like just do that for 40 years straight, and then you retire and then you die. Like
Yep.
that seemed awful to me. So That, the idea of like busting my ass to like make other people rich, didn't really like that. The idea of like not, but what really, so there were a lot of these thoughts like starting to brew.
Mm-hmm.
What really did it for me was my boss got laid off, for like reasons that were not, company needed to lay someone off and they chose him. And it like, he had 3 kids and he just showed up to work one day and they're like, cool, this is your last day. Like, pack up your shit. We're going.
Yeah.
And it seemed monstrously unfair to me, to like be in that position.
Mm.
I remember he like walked into my office and was like, hey, you want to like take the rest of the day off to go drink beer because this is my last day? I'm like, yes. And then we went back and like after work, after the office was empty, his wife came, we boxed up his whole office, and then that was it. And then he had to go find another job. And I remember I came home that evening, super bummed, kind of drunk. And I called up my dad and was like, I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I'm going to start a company. Like, I can't be part of a career that would do this to people. Like, if I'm going to get fired, if I'm going to lose my job, it's going to be because of something I did. I don't want to be in a position where someone could just do this to me.
I like that. That's great. Oh, that's great. What a major turning point for you right there in your career. And at that point, you were probably what, 30? No, probably 28, 29. I don't know.
I was, yeah, I was
Late 20s.
almost 28. I was almost 28.
Okay. Okay. Very good. All right. I like that. Appreciate you sharing that. How the hell did you come up with the PuppTech? How did that? And by the way, I'm just curious because I found some old YouTube videos. The dog in the video, was that your dog that just recently passed? The dog?
Yeah, that was Clovis. So while I was working at this job, I got a dog. And Clovis, great dog. My first dog, and that's part of the story. So I'd never owned a dog before. I knew nothing about it, but I love hiking, camping, all of that stuff. Wanted to be able to bring my dog with me. So, like right away, right after I got him, my dad and I went on a camping trip to go climb a 14er, with the dog.
Okay.
And 3-day trip in like southern Colorado, about a 6-hour drive from Denver. Great trip. And we had a great time. Spent the whole time with the dog. It was awesome. And then on the way home, we wanted to stop for lunch. And that's where we ran into problems because you can't bring the dog to the restaurant.
Where were you? Were you like Silverton, Durango? Where were you?
Lake City.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of in the middle of nowhere. Beautiful. But we just had this great 14er weekend. We wanted to celebrate. We wanted to go to lunch. Can't bring the dog in the restaurant. So we spent a lot of time looking for a restaurant where I could park in the shade. And then we went inside. I rolled all the windows down, but I was worried about him. So I was going out every 5 minutes to check on him and make sure he wasn't getting too hot, make sure he was okay. And it sucked. It like ruined what should have been an otherwise enjoyable lunch. So I got back to Denver and I asked my vet, hey, like, what should I have done in this instance? Right? Like, I'm first time dog owner. I don't really know. I know I'm not supposed to leave him in the car, but like, this happened. What should I do? And she said, oh, well, you should have just left your dog at home for the entire weekend. Like, if you're going to have to leave your dog in the car, just don't bring him. And I was like, that sucks.
Yeah.
We spent 98% of the weekend together and had a great time. But because there's 1 hour where he can't be with me, I should have just left him at home. Like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
That's where the idea for PuppTech emerged. So that idea was brewing. And then it like sat there for like 7 months. And then my boss got laid off. And then I was like, cool, I have this idea. I have no idea what business is or tech is, but I'm going to go figure it out.
How about that? And did you bootstrap it yourself? Did your dad invest? How did you fund the whole thing?
My dad invested. My dad was my biggest, it would never have happened without my dad. So he gave me my first $10,000 to go out and like figure out some kind of prototype. Okay. Ultimately, he ended up investing a couple $100,000. I'm very blessed that I was able to have that support from my family. I know that the vast majority of people would not be able to have that. And so I feel incredibly lucky that I did. And that's what allowed us to get started.
That's great. Sounds like your dad are pretty, you and your dad are pretty close. Is he still with us?
Yeah, he is. And he's off doing his own startup, and so we now have competing startups.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay, we got to get into that.
Competing like from who can make it first, not like actually competing.
Okay. All right.
Right.
He must
No,
be,
no.
by the way, he must be in pretty good shape. Is he still doing 14ers?
He has been pretty good shape. He could still do 14ers, but he has some balance issues, and we've decided for his safety, we don't want him falling off of a 14er. So
Okay. All right. Was there an exit at PuppTech? What happened? Yeah, walk us through what happened, because you ran it for 4 or 5 years.
there was definitely not an exit, or not a good one. So PuppTech, I ended up figuring out what I was doing. I quit my job sort of almost a year in to be able to do PuppTech full time.
Okay.
I was a young 29-year-old kid with a dog and no idea what I was doing. Zero. Didn't know how to code. Didn't know anything about technology. I was a water engineer. But I stuck with it. I think I was too stupid to quit a lot. Most people should have quit a lot. But I refused to quit because the idea of going back to work was just way too unpalatable to me.
Yeah, exactly.
And like being broke and living in my parents' basement and not having a social life was still more fun than like having a job and a salary and my own place. I had bought a house when I got that job as an engineer, ended up selling it, moving back into my parents' basement. As a 29-year-old. The original plan was to live there for like 6 months. I ended up living there for 6 years. So I really stuck with PuppTech and sort of just through the sheer power of will, ended up getting a few investors and trying to make this thing happen.
Okay.
We brought a product to market. We did a successful crowdfunding campaign. We had a distribution agreement. We brought a product to market. We could spend the entire podcast talking about what all the things PuppTech that went wrong. I actually have done that. But ultimately, like we fell just short. We ran out of money. Our product did not meet the high quality standard that it needed to. Our customers were furious. Our investors pulled out. We were trying to scramble to save the company, and then COVID came and just wiped us out. Because so we had a few options to sell off some of the assets. We had a few conversations in that vein. COVID came, all the money dried up, everything disappeared. The whole company just imploded on itself. And I was back to nothing, looking for a job.
But you know what? Let's just take a pause right there. The amount of lessons and all of that, the learning for you throughout that whole thing, right, is super valuable now, especially moving on into more entrepreneurial journeys. Like all the things you learned. I realized maybe it wasn't a huge successful exit where you made a lot of money, but you learned, you matured, you grew as an entrepreneur. I mean, hard to measure all of the silver lining that came from that, right?
Oh, I agree. I don't regret the experience at all. It was really hard. It took a huge toll on my mental health for a while. But it was an amazing experience. And I learned so much, and it set me up for, I'll never be a water engineer again. I have like way too much other stuff that I can do now instead.
Speaking of the mental health, right, and I appreciate you sharing. I don't know how personal you want to get, but that is a very difficult time for entrepreneurs if they try something, maybe it's even their second try. It doesn't make it. They're at home, if they're single or if they have a spouse, their spouse is looking at them like, hey, it might be time for you to go get a job or whatever. That moment where you have to like go get a regular job when you know in your soul that you want to be an entrepreneur, that is hard emotionally. Like that will send a lot of people into some deep depression. You know what I mean? And sometimes then alcohol and drugs and all these other things happen, sometimes. And a lot of people don't recover from that. That's a very difficult period right there. Did you have some dark moments where there's some like, oh man, what the fuck am I doing with my life now type of deal?
Oh yeah. So yes. For the first 5 years of PuppTech, not really. I was 100%, 1,000% convinced that what I was doing was going to work. and that like despite all the doubters and the haters, like we were gonna pull it off. And just like screw you guys, like I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was getting an enormous amount of pressure from my family and my friends to like,
Sure.
crazy. Why do you think you can do this? You should just quit, right? All my friends got married. All my friends had kids. All my friends did all those things. I was doing none of those things. I was living in my parents' basement, thinking about how to save the world for my dog and like not making any money, right? It's really hard. But I believed enough in what I was doing that it was fine. And I was loving what I was doing, even if what I was doing meant like being completely broke and not having a life. When it got tough was when at the end things started to collapse, because then it felt like the last 5 years had been a failure. Everyone was mad at me. There were a lot of people who were very upset. We had lost a ton of money, our investors, our customers. And I just felt like I had let everyone down. I felt like everything I had done was a failure. And I just felt personally like a failure.
I get it.
That was really, really hard. And it took me a long time to recover from that.
I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I know that is a tough journey. So then you went and looks like you had a contract, or you went to work for somebody before you partnered with folks to do Acclimate. Walk us through that real quick.
No, not really. So the pandemic came and everyone went into quarantine. And that's like right at the pandemic. PuppTech had been going very poorly before the pandemic. We were still trying to grind it out. We were still trying to do it. The board ended up firing me as CEO, or not firing me, demoting me to like, you're still the CEO, but just don't be the CEO for now, because like you clearly mentally cannot handle it. Like go skiing instead, or do whatever you want. Just don't be the CEO. We'll handle it. Yeah. So I had already taken a big step back, and was like starting to think about, I need to go get another job. I need to figure all this out. Pandemic comes along. Everything shuts down. If you remember those early days, right? The economy didn't exist anymore, basically. And just my family owns a ranch in Texas. So we all just went down to the ranch in Texas and we holed up there for 3 months.
Cool. Can I ask where it's at? Do you mind, or not the exact location?
It's in the Panhandle. So it's about a 7-hour drive from Texas, from Denver. And
cool.
So we just went there, and we didn't have to deal with masking or social distancing or any of that stuff, because there is no social out there. We were 4 miles away from the nearest other house. Just out there by ourselves. It was awesome. And it was exactly what I needed to recover from the trauma of the end of PuppTech. So I spent a lot of time running. I spent a lot of time, like I built a deck, just sort of like doing sort of non-work related stuff and figuring out what I wanted to do. There were no jobs, so it wasn't like very useful to apply for jobs. And then after a lot of soul searching and a lot of long walks on the ranch and a few cocktails, I realized that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and that like, the whole main reason I wanted a job was so I could have a social life. But having a social life was not something that you could do in the year 2020. So I was like, well, if I'm going to live with my parents anyways, I might as well go be an entrepreneur. So that's when I posted on LinkedIn that I was looking for my next thing. And Mike, who I had met many years before, who's now my co-founder, he reached out and he was like, hey, like, you know how to build software. We have this idea for a tech product. Let's meet. And
how about that?
That's it.
How about that? How'd you guys know each other before? Did you work together at school or?
Right around the time when I was starting PuppTech is when Mike started his first company, Renew West. And so we had met through the like Denver first time entrepreneurs network. We ended up in a support, like basically an entrepreneurship support group together, mastermind group. We would sit around and complain about how hard it is to be a
isn't it so true?
So we just stayed in touch, and then he saw my post on LinkedIn and reached out, and here we are.
That's pretty cool. Now, was he saying, hey, William, I got this idea, by the way, we haven't raised any cash yet, and I can't really pay you anything, but come on and help me with this?
Basically. So he had his other company, Renew West, had a little bit of cash. And he'd been working on that company for 5 years. They had raised a little bit of money. They had a little bit of cash.
All right.
They were able to pay me a little bit, not enough to move out of my parents' basement, but enough to like stop hemorrhaging money every month.
Okay.
But yeah, the deal was like, we're going to build this, but like, we can't pay you much, but maybe at some point we'll be able to pay you more.
And you got equity, I'm sure.
Got equity. I mean, I got a third of it.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Very good. Okay. Well, that's great, man. That's so cool that he called you. That call came right about just in time.
Just in time. Yeah. Just when I was like, I really want to go do something important. I want to do another startup. I want it to be meaningful.
And it matched a lot of your passions, right? I mean,
a lot of my passions. Frankly, it was a much better fit for me than like starting a dog company, right? Because I've always been much more interested in like climate and earth sciences and all of that than dogs.
Yeah, very good. All right, give us the Acclimate overview real quick, the 2-3 minute pitch for the listeners real quick. And by the way, it is acclimate.com. Give us the pitch. Go for it.
Yeah, so Acclimate, ACLYMATE. We make carbon accounting software for small businesses. We make it really easy for small businesses to do their part to fight climate change. And that way they can demonstrate to their employees, investors, customers, et cetera, that they are actually putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to their values around climate change. So Acclimate is a web app. It's basically like QuickBooks for climate change. So like QuickBooks is designed to be used by non-experts, people who know very little about climate change or carbon accounting. We take all of the guesswork out of it. We make it super easy. And we've automated a lot of the busy work around carbon accounting. We track your emissions every month. There's a dashboard where you can go in and view reports about your emissions, charts, analytics, et cetera. Download those reports, and then once you figured out what your carbon footprint is, you can buy offsets. And we have the largest selection of offsets available for small businesses anywhere on the internet that we know of. So,
well, I don't know what you mean by offsets. I'm sorry. Help me.
Carbon offsets are basically ways to invest in projects that are actively removing carbon from the atmosphere or preventing carbon from going into the atmosphere. And we could actually, so I'm in the office of a college professor right now because I was just upstairs giving a lecture about carbon offsets. I was invited as a guest speaker right before. So we could spend an entire 90-minute lecture talking about carbon offsets. But basically it's a way for companies to financially support projects that are meaningful, projects or businesses that are meaningfully reducing climate change. So as a quick example, I'm on the board of a company here in Colorado called Methane RX. They work on a coal mine an abandoned coal mine in Western Colorado. Abandoned coal mines leak a ton of methane into the atmosphere. Methane is a really potent greenhouse gas. I didn't
know that abandoned mines did that. Nope, didn't know that.
Yeah, because like you've dug into the ground and you've released all of this gas that's trapped in the ground, and now it's just seeping into the atmosphere. Methane is a really bad greenhouse gas. It's a lot worse than carbon. And yet like nobody's talking about it. And so what this company does is that they go in and they harvest that methane to prevent it from going into the atmosphere, and they convert it into electricity instead. And a big part of their business model is selling offsets. Offsets are the way in which they can sustain their operations. And so businesses who are emitting can buy these offsets to offset their emissions by then like investing in the reduction that this company is doing.
Got it. I see. Okay. So Acclimate is I guess it's a SaaS business, really? I mean, how do you classify yourselves?
Yeah, we're a SaaS with a marketplace. But we're primarily a SaaS, right? So our accounting software is just typical SaaS. You pay for a subscription every month to be able to access the software.
And in layman's terms, as a commoner, I guess, would I be correct in describing you as a great tool for me to put my money where my mouth is, instead of just posting on LinkedIn that we're trying to save the environment? I can actually show you how we're saving the environment or working towards that. Is
exactly. That's right. Right. So you'd be like, I need to save the environment. I have no idea how to do that. I know nothing about the environment. I also have no idea like what my impact is. I should figure that out. So we can help you figure out what your impact is, what you're emitting. And then if you would like to offset those emissions, then we can help you do that too.
Now, is this just I have to make sure that my team is inputting all the correct data and information, or do you have people that will come in and help with that?
So we have both. So there is a self-service option, and we can integrate directly with a lot of your systems. Like we can integrate with your QuickBooks, for example, and like read all of your information and convert all of that into emissions data.
Okay.
You can do that. We can hook up to your utility provider if you pay your utilities and sort of tell you your emissions for all of that. So we have a bunch of integrations and automated tools to reduce that data entry load. Or
Okay.
you can pay us. We provide a service where we can basically just do all that for you as well.
Okay. And are you targeting certain size companies, certain industries, or doesn't matter?
Companies with less than 500 employees, and typically companies that don't manufacture things for now, because manufacturing is really hard to like calculate, and we just aren't sophisticated enough in our calculations to be able to do that.
Why less than 500 employees? Because companies bigger than that already have their own thing going on?
Yeah, so companies bigger than that tend to have, there's a lot more competitors in that space, first of all. And then companies that are bigger than that, they typically have an in-house sustainability department and an in-house sustainability professional. And that's not who our software is designed for.
I see.
Our software is really designed for people who are not sustainability professionals. So we would be lacking some key features that those people would need to really be able to do the job the way they've been trained. And so we're really designed for, you know, the 99% of businesses that don't have sustainability professionals, but still need to.
Okay. So small business, basically, we'll just call it small business.
Yep.
That's not a manufacturer. Is it affordable? I mean, a lot of small businesses are, you know, they're week to week, check to check, so to speak. There's, you know, a lot of them are not flush with cash. Is this an affordable add-on for a lot of companies? And can you speak to price at all on this?
Yeah, definitely. And it's listed on our website. We're very transparent about that. The answer is yeah, like we've designed it. We know that small businesses are not flush for cash. And often that's why they don't want to do this, right? So they're like, yeah, I want to do climate change, but I can't afford to. Yep. We try to reduce that burden from them. So for the smallest business, it's $29 a month to access our software.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. And, well, that's a no-brainer.
Right. Scales up from there. For like a 500 person company, I would have to go look exactly on our website, but it's going to be like a few $100s a month.
I see. So it scales based on the size. Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
And do you have to sign a contract? Can you do month to month? What if I use it for 3 months and
it's typical SaaS, right? So if you do it yearly, we provide you a discount, but you can do it month to month too.
Okay. Very good. All over the country? Are you targeting certain regions? And how many clients or customers, not sure what you call them, do you have so far? Can you speak to the size?
Yeah. So yes, all over the country. We even have some from other countries. We have somewhere around 50 customers, like paying customers for now. And we have a few hundred sort of people who have used our platform. So we're hoping to grow from there.
How many employees do you guys have so far?
7.
And are you able to pay yourself to where you don't have to live in your parents' basement, or are you paying?
Yes. So we raised a little bit of money from some angel investors, and I was able to buy my own place a year ago. And so I finally, at the age of 35, was able to move out of my parents' basement and have my own place.
But the reality is, and this is a good, I don't know, a motivational reminder for the listeners, the aspiring entrepreneurs. I'm just going to assume you are still way underpaying yourself for what your resume would bring in the market if you went and got a regular job.
That is correct, by like about half.
That's what I figured. You know, it's so funny. I started Riderflex eight years ago because we're a recruiting and staffing firm. That's our day job.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was in mid 200s. I ran a couple of $40 million companies as a CEO and COO before I started Riderflex. That was 8 years ago. Guess how many times I've paid myself mid 200s since I started Riderflex?
Probably zero.
Zero.
I know that I could be, as a software engineer, especially like senior level software engineer, I could be making
Oh, oh
at
yeah.
least that, right? But I
Yeah.
do not at all.
Right. So exactly. And let's just take a pause right here. I think this is so important for folks to hear, especially if they're thinking about starting their own company. You know, if life is just about material things for you, then fine. Go get the $200,000 a year job and be miserable and hate it. But maybe you somehow you get some sort of reward because you can live in a certain house in a certain neighborhood, and that makes you feel better about yourself. But I will tell you, William, I'm making half what I used to make, but the ability for me on Friday to get in my Jeep and go to the mountains if I want to without having to ask anybody. I mean, dude,
Mhm. Right.
I, there's,
Yeah.
I can't even put a value on that. Somebody asked me like, what's that worth? I'm like, I don't know, but it's worth a lot.
For the what, right? I used to have to track my hours and like submit requests for my 2 weeks of vacation time that I got every year. And now I can do whatever I want. Mike and I sort of have each agreed that we're not going to track each other's time because we both know that we're doing it. And like, there's no need for me to check in and, hey, Mike, how much work did you do today? Here's how much work I did today. Right. We know we're both invested in this fully.
Totally, dude. Yeah, I totally get it. My co-founder and I, Scott, are the exact same way. You know, exactly. I mean, we work plenty, but the freedoms, just to have the freedom of to make certain decisions or whatever.
Like I don't like skiing on weekends because it's a mess. So
Oh,
I ski Tuesdays and Wednesdays now, and I work on weekends. And
there you go.
most people would never be able to do that. And like I put a lot of value on that, even if it's not reflected in my salary. Yes.
I do the same a lot in the summer with my Jeep when I go camping in the mountains. I will go camping during the week because on the weekends it's just
It's a zoo.
it's yeah, I can't do it. Are you in a cash raise right now? What's going on? Do you want to mention? Is there anything you want to mention? Are you guys you're good or where's
So
the life cycle?
we're pretty good. I mean, we're always, if angel investors out there are hearing this and want to come talk to us, we would take more cash, but we are not actively raising. We're actually pretty good. We have about a year's worth of runway.
Okay.
So we feel very lucky because given the fundraising climate for startups right now, it's
Dude.
rough out there.
Yeah, we're
And
recording this, by the way, for the listeners, in case people are listening to this for a year from now. This is October 19th, 2023, and it's a tough market right now. Very tough.
tough market. And so we feel like we just need to hunker down and preserve as much runway as possible and just sort of try to figure out, if anything, how to make it so that we don't need to raise more cash. So that's our goal. Obviously, if somebody is dying to invest in us, we would love to talk to them. But we are not actively raising right now. We are focused on selling growth. So, the bigger ask is like any businesses that are out there that want to talk to us about becoming climate friendly, doing something about their carbon footprint, like that's who we want to talk to.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you for sharing that. I want to ask now, I want to move in with our remaining time here, if you don't mind. Let's go to 30,000 feet about, if you're cool with it. I'd like to go to 30,000 feet about climate change, and let's talk bigger picture things and the whole giant debate about just that topic. And I want to ask you some questions on how you deal with this. So I find it fascinating. I live in Colorado. For the most listeners know that, but I live in Colorado. Now, Colorado is a blue state, and what I would call very environmentally friendly and socially responsible for the most part. However, there are pockets of Colorado, like Weld County, which, by the way, I live in.
Yeah.
I live in Weld County. And wow, I can go from Weld County, I can go from Greeley or Johnstown, Colorado, and visit with farmers or oil field guys or whatever, and then I can go right over to Boulder and visit. And I have a ton of friends in Boulder too, right? In fact, I've interviewed a shitload of entrepreneurs from Boulder. And I can go right over to Boulder, which is 40 minutes away. And it is a completely different mindset, William. Like, it's like going from Mars to Earth. It's like, I guess, why is that? Is that because people gravitate towards what protects them financially? Is that, I mean, does it all yeah, I don't know what you want to comment.
Yeah, I think I think it's right. Like people who work in the extractive industries feel directly threatened by climate change, and their job is directly threatened, and therefore they would rather fight it than have to live with the consequences. And I think that's like a very normal human instinct. Like I'm
I would
not
think so. Yeah.
like, this threatens my job, so I need to be against it. This threatens my livelihood, so I need to be against it. I think the oil companies have done a really, really, really good job of politicizing the issue, and therefore like making it tied to identity. And so, I am a conservative Republican and I work in the oil field, and therefore I have to be opposed to climate change. That's just what conservative Republicans believe in these days. And so I think, wow, unfortunately, a lot of it has been politicized.
Totally.
And it's now like fits in very nicely to the greater like tribal culture war BS that's being raged all over this country.
Oh my God. Drives me nuts, William. Why does every single fucking topic have to be this tribe or that tribe? Like every time I get up in the mornings and I want to check the news because I kind of want to know what's going on. So I'm drinking my coffee and I'm like, I guess I better look at the news because, I don't know, if Martians landed, I guess I want to know about it. But it's like every topic has to be slotted into this tribe thing. And I just get so furious about that. I'm like, why do we have to push this over here? Not every single thing has to be red or blue. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts.
Climate change should be right. Like we all breathe the same atmosphere. We all breathe the same air. We all live in the same atmosphere. We're all going to suffer the same consequences.
Yeah.
But it's become this hyper political issue intentionally by the oil companies. They wanted to make it seem as this is big government trying to take away our freedoms, blah, blah, blah. And they were very successful in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the oil companies, I guess, besides the pharmaceutical companies, the pharmaceutical companies and the oil companies are the most powerful people on the planet. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So unfortunately, this issue's been politicized, and now it's really hard because of that. There's no political will to do anything about it. There's very little political will to do anything about climate change.
Do you think the political nature of it all slows your progress as a company? I'm sure it does.
Oh yeah, totally. We like to think that we're doing fine and we're growing and we're trying to get new customers and it's happening. It's slow. We're hoping that we stick around long enough until this becomes mandatory, until there's some government regulation that steps in, because then we're going to ride a rocket ship to the moon, right? Because then everyone is going to have to do this and it's not going to be an option. For now, very few companies have to do this. And so we hear a lot like, yeah, I care about climate change. Totally. It's really bad. But you know what I care about this year? Inflation. And I just lost a bunch of employees and all this other stuff. So climate change is something I can address next year. And so we'll yeah, you guys seem great, but we'll talk next year when we have time to think about this. If there was government regulation that stepped in and forced people to do this, we would be having very different conversations.
Yeah, you just nailed an important topic there. For small businesses, the social issues or the environmental issues, these things that people do care about, and they do, most people want to help or make a difference. But when times get tough and they're having a cash flow meeting and they're like, holy shit, we may not be able to make payroll next week, all that other stuff is
right. I think in especially in SaaS and startups, right? Like the easiest kind of SaaS product to sell is one if you can be like, hey, using our product has been shown to save the average company $10,000 per year. So pay us $1,000 and we can directly show you how we're going to save you $10,000. And it's
there you go.
We can make all sorts of claims, and we do, about how this is really good for your branding and it's good for, to live your values, and it helps you attract better employees and better talent and more investors, all of this great stuff that is important, but it doesn't hit the bottom line quite as directly.
Yeah, I totally understand. And right now we're in we're recording this, like I said, on the 19th of October, 2023. And I actually think the market and the economy are tougher and a little more danger ahead of us than what the media is portraying. I sense that it's going to get a little tougher here coming soon. Now, by the way, I hope I'm totally wrong. I hope I'm totally wrong.
Too, but yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. And so things like carbon offsets are seen like or even carbon action are seen like a luxury.
Yeah, I know, man. That's a tough hill for you guys to climb, but I like the mentality and the strategy of let's just keep pushing forward and keep pushing forward. And if there's some regulation, boom, like you said, then it's a rocket ship. Acclimate.com, by the way, ACLYMATE, acclimate.com. I want to ask you, William, we're almost out of time. Let's lighten it up here. Let's go back to, let's get something, talk about something a little more lighter. Because I'm getting irritated thinking about the fact that these important topics, these important things you're trying to solve, you're right, they do get forgotten when times get tough financially for people. They don't get forgotten, they get pushed aside. That's depressing. Back burner. Hey, I want to ask you a couple of camping questions right before we hang up, because me and you are both nature guys.
Yeah.
I'll have to send you a photo. I've dropped this on my social media. I was up in Medicine Bow, Snowy Range, and this is a positive story, I guess, in some ways. I come across a fire pit. You know where this is going, right? Come across a fire pit, and there it's trashed, left there. I'm on my mountain bike that day. And I pull over, I see this fire pit, and it's on a forest road, and I am just furious. I'm just like, what human being gets in their car after camping the next morning and drives away from that site with trash in the fire pit? Like, I just have a hard time wrapping my brain around who can do that. I don't, are they mentally unstable? Are they sociopaths? Both? William, help me. Who are these people?
I wonder the same thing. I mean, I think they're just people who have not been properly educated about the importance of that thing. And it's sad to think that it might just be that simple, but like I was told to take care of my stuff and to clean up after myself. I think that a lot of people just lack that basic level of education.
I hope I don't ever come across somebody trashing a fire pit when I'm up there, because I'm afraid of what I might do or say. Then I'm going to end up in jail. My wife's going to have to bail me out.
God.
But the positive story, or positive part of that story is, while I'm on my mountain bike, I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay, how am I going to get this? I didn't have a bag with me or anything. I didn't have anything. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to, am I going to stuff all this in my pockets? How am I going to get this trash out of here? I'm trying to figure it out. This is hunting season, right at the beginning of hunting season this year. Some hunters pull up real slow on this forest road in a truck right by me. There's 3 of them in the truck. And I said, hey guys, how's it going? I said, you don't have to have a trash bag on you in your truck, do you? And those 3 hunters, William, I could tell they hadn't noticed the trash. But when I said that, they all three then kind of picked up on what was going on. They saw that trash in the fire pit. All 3 of them immediately got out of the truck. And that guy grabbed a bag of trash, and we all 4 picked up that trash. Just no hesitation whatsoever. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I was like, here we go. This is the kind of human nature. This is what I want to see right here. It was cool.
Yeah. That's a good story to end on, because those dudes as hunters, they might not agree with us politically on a lot of things, but we still have that basic human instinct to care for the planet and to leave it a better place. So
you just nailed it, right? Because you're right. Those guys, you're probably right. I'm guessing they probably vote Republican, right? But at that moment, they don't give a shit about that. They're like, somebody trashed that fire pit, and we're going to fix that right now.
They're out there enjoying nature the same way you are. And so for them, it's just as shitty to see that as it was for you. And that's what we need. That's what we need. Put aside all the BS and let's come together over things we can agree on.
You got that right, brother. Well, that's a good spot to wrap this up, my friend. William, thank you for being on the show, sharing your story. Hey, what a very inspirational story, and a lot of grit, a lot of determination on your part. Everything you went through, and you're still pushing forward to chase your dreams, follow some passions, be an entrepreneur. I love it, man. Great story. I'm really glad you were on the show. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for allowing me to share. And hopefully people can learn from it something. Hopefully it's
I'm
useful.
sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.